Senator Murkowski for any comments she would like to make.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the witnesses, welcome and good morning. The purpose of today's hearing is to take another, perhaps a closer look at clean tech competitiveness issues between China and the United States. And I want to reinforce the Chairman's remarks here that this hearing is not about ongoing trade disputes. It's not the role of this committee to influence those processes. Focusing, I think, on other topics will not diminish our conversation, but rather to the contrary. Competitiveness challenges surface long before trade complaints are filed. They emerge even before the goods are manufactured or the factories are built, because they start with the decisions made by companies and individuals about where to invest. The factors guiding these decisions are nearly limitless, and they're no different when the choice is between the United States and China or any other country. Regulatory and tax treatments, property rights, raw material availability, labor, healthcare costs, access to affordable energy, all of these combine to guide investment decisions. Our work to better understand these forces can benefit from comparisons with China, but there are also some key differences that I think is important that we keep in mind. These differences are rooted in some very important factors, including what our own Constitution permits, how much taxpayer money we can afford to spend, what the American people really are willing to support. I'm one who believes that we need to be mindful of these factors when we hear claims that the United States is somehow falling behind China in a clean energy race. In so many ways, I would suggest that we are not falling behind. From the wages and conditions for our workers to our environmental standards and capacity for innovation, I think that the United States is leading. We can and should work with China to make progress on our energy challenges, but we should not necessarily copy what they do or how they do it just for the sake of copying what they do. Imitating China is not the best way to compete with China. And this is particularly true for energy technology subsidies as we work to get our debt under control. I've long advocated for funding clean tech research efforts with revenues from conventional energy sources. This, I think, is a far more sustainable approach than the one taken by China. I hope that we continue to gain in traction in that direction. Beyond spending, I think we need to be careful about following even China's more progressive energy policy. An example would be the Three Gorges Dam, a source of renewable energy, but it has displaced several million people from their homes and their communities. Chinese production of raw materials for clean energy technologies has had some negative impacts on their country's air and water quality. The solar panel factories don't necessarily run on solar power. But having said all that, I think we also recognize that our country's policies are not perfect either. Even here at home, where we've got a proud history of improving environmental performance, biofuels have played a role in raising our food prices. We currently have no plan for permanent disposal of our spent nuclear fuel and nuclear waste. And the siting of transmission lines to connect renewable assets to the grid has, of course, resulted in some controversy out there. I raise these issues not to throw cold water on the enthusiasm for clean energy technologies, but perhaps to provide some context and a reminder to us of the challenges that we face. It's my hope that this hearing serves as the basis for understanding how cautious we must be about accepting some of the simple narratives. In the end, this is not just about lowering the cost of financing projects that we all support or finding the money in the budget for subsidies. It's about looking honestly at the whole picture, devoting as much attention to identifying areas where our own government can play a constructive role as we do identifying areas where it's getting in the way. It's about balancing the priorities and reaching agreement on the policies that address both our immediate and our long-term needs. The discussion must account for China, but I don't think that we should be overwhelmed by it. I appreciate the fact that we have the opportunity to have this hearing this morning, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to the statements and the comments